I am going to start by saying thank you, because this is like a experiment or a test that I am doing. I am going to start doing my PhD in AI in the current world. And part of this experiment that I am doing is because my PhD. So while you already go through that process, I think, and well, now I am starting, and what I want to listen is more insights since the point of view of AI. So basically, what I want to discuss today is that in a world where AI can now create images and text, what part of the creative process do you believe will always require the human hand? So that's the topic today. So I would like to start by introducing each one, so to know what do you do and what do you think like basic of the AI. You know? So Justin, did you want
take
to
it off? Okay, Luis, thank you for letting us come in here and hang out and visit. That's very cool that you're knocking out the PhD. It's huge.
Yeah.
Now I got to figure out how I can level up, right? But I'm Justin Holland with Texas State Insurance Services and Palmetto Life Group. We specialize in the insurance business, Medicare for seniors, individual health for individuals, employee benefits for companies, and then Palmetto Life Group really focuses on life, long-term care planning, social security analysis. So we're having fun doing that. We just recently added auto and home and umbrella policies as well. We got tired of referring that out and not getting anything back, so we're gonna have that in house. So we're excited.
And what do you think about AI? How you are using it?
We talked about this before we kicked this off today with you. It has been well embraced. I think I'm kind of, I guess, slow to the race to get in there and really start implementing it, but I still think I'm ahead of other competitors that aren't utilizing it, even with the little bit that I'm doing myself. And it's helped. We've got a radio show. I did my radio show notes and sped that up. That saved me easily an hour and a half every week for that. And I'm learning the challenges too from that. But you talked about the graphics, the images, and all of that. My wife's a graphic designer, so she helps me with a lot of that graphic design, and she's been implementing that, and she's been tweaking it. And don't get me wrong, you can send an image or tell AI what you want, and it could not give you what you want sometimes, and you're wrestling with that back and forth. Because I've been seeing that, I still think we have a ways to go to have that human touch, because you're going to have somebody critique the image or whatever it created, to make it special. I don't know, it's a good question. I mean, AI's got to get really sharp and really good, especially on images or stuff like that, for us to, I think, replace the complete human touch. That's my take.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Thank you, Justin. Wally.
Hi, so my name is Wally Wallace. I'm a real estate developer here in town, a little bit accidentally. So really what I do, I'm on leave from a PhD program where I'm at Duke, and I'm doing a dissertation on moral AI.
Well,
so I think both about how can AI systems, either present or anticipated future systems, how can they engage in moral and practical reasoning themselves? What are the conditions that we have that enable us to do that? And which of those may or may not carry over into AI systems now and in the future? But then as part of that, I end up thinking quite a bit about the moral value of AI, which ties to this conversation. So what are the implications of AI for de-skilling, for how we appreciate things? Can AI engage in things like creativity or intentionality or achievements, all very related to this conversation?
Hi, my name is Michael Espinoza. I run a network of calendars called Texas Business Calendars. We aggregate all the local networking and business events in Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, so people will know what's going on in these business professionals. I believe networking is one of the most important things we can do as business owners, and I think it's going to become even more important because of AI and technology. I've actually been in technology way too long, 40 plus years.
just getting warmed up.
40, yeah, 40, exactly. I like to tell people I own the original IBM PC, original Mac, and almost every other toy for the last 40 years. So I'm kind of the exception in the sense that I've completely learned to embrace technology. I've realized it is inevitable. I don't fight it. I do try to look at the moral uses of it, which is important. I think we're going to look at AI-wise with the moral uses of technology even more now because of the accelerated rate it's being adapted. But, there's pros and cons to AI, and there always have. I've been through fights about, with people about, over the years, email, I'm never going to use email, I'm never going to use fax machines, I'm never, it's always, we're never going to use it, inevitably everybody does. Smartphones, we're never going to use smartphones, that kind of thing. So inevitably it gets adapted. The question is, how are we going to control that adoption of it? But I think right now we are at a point where there's never been a tool that has allowed a small business owner so much power before. That's what I really like about AI right now. You can take a person that's starting a brand new business that would have taken thousands of dollars, a lot of time and effort to do a lot of things to get their business off the ground. And now with AI, you can accelerate a lot of that, and you can have that true one or two multi-million-dollar company. And I think that's one of the things that's exciting to me about AI. There's a lot of negative things about it, but it's an infancy, really. I mean, we're just barely getting started.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you all of you to come. And I'm going to talk about myself a little bit. My name is Luis Escobar. I am a Mexican entrepreneur. I came, maybe all of you already know that I came here because I was tried to be kidnapped twice. And I had the opportunity to lead this transition to resilient point of view, to start from zero in a different country with a different language and different culture, that I think that makes my point of view very, very different from the American point of view, since obviously you are always here and you are always in the most powerful economy in the world. And when you come from another economy and you see the way you behave, for me everything is different and everything is new for me. And that give me another point of view since where I need to appreciate. I started at Washington already. Por favor. Mm-hmm. Since the point of view that we appreciate more what you have achieved as a country and as a culture that where I came from. Adelante, Washington. Come in, Washington.
Hey, how are you? How are you?
Fine, thanks. You?
Very good, very good.
¿Dónde se sienta Washington?
Do you want to sit one over so we can see you
Can you sit right here?
on our video?
Let me see that way then.
Yeah.
Is that way better way?
Yeah, I can make that work.
Because I'm on cover with my hair covered. Hi everybody. Thank you.
So yeah, we have started. So no worries. We were in the part of introduction each one.
Okay.
So you can start because it's your turn now.
Okay.
Everybody already introduced. Justin Holland, Wally Wallace, Michael Espinoza, and Washington. Can you tell us something about you, Washington?
Yeah, my name is Washington Navarro. I'm the founder of the Entrepreneurial World. It's an ecosystem of entrepreneurial skill development. We do programs with universities, small business for economic development. And we have programs in the United States, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Chile.
Okay.
And I like pleasure.
What do you think about the AI? Because the topic that I am discussing today is in a world where AI can now create images and text. What part of the creative process do you believe will always require the human hand? So how you are involved with AI and what you can start with?
I think that every person is going to have their own experience with AI. If you're a creator, you're going to be affected. If you're a business owner, your performance is going to increase. So I think that depending who you ask, is going to have a different a different answer. From my perspective, if I'm working with talent, I just want them to be more efficient. So it's like we went from Excel to Power BI, right? Like it's the same utilization of kind of the same idea of the technology on steroids. So it's not, from my perspective, it's no difference. Now, from the artists and creators, you should have somebody here to answer you that.
Yeah, well, that is the really spam because, for instance, Wally that is doing something in PhD based on the moral of AI.
Mhm.
That's a different point of view, and I am doing my PhD in human sciences, like philosophy and so on, and that's a different point of view than the technology where Michael is more has more expertise, and Justin is more like a user of the AI, and his wife is more in the creativity part because he's a designer. So you are in the entrepreneur and you are having this experience of AI in the business world.
I look before I start doing what I do, I truly want to be a fashion designer, and I think everybody, it's like in a startup. Everybody can start something, but few people can complete it. You know, like it's millions of startups. There's millions of ideas on it, but to me, it's gonna come to the execution. Everybody can do. Everybody say like, oh, I have that idea. I have the same idea. Great, but you didn't do it. That person did it. You know, so I don't know. I think there is something great about the value of what the mind of a person can create, whether with or without AI. I don't know. That's a very good question. Somebody creative over here. That will be gonna be like.
I can channel my partner as a working artist. And
Okay.
we don't always agree, but we have frequent discussions and debates because she feels personally threatened by how AI is changing people's perception of the image generation process. So she will be very careful to always reject the term AI art. And she will say it's AI image generation, art is something people do. So she always presses that point. So I'm happy to channel her a little bit to have a little bit of a devil's advocate if we need it.
But now that you mentioned that, AI is based on the information that it already exists. And they took that information and they give us a response, an answer. So when we are talking about images, when we ask something to AI and they give us something, the question would be, is that creative? Or the human is more creative than something that is always based on something that already exists?
But don't we actually do that ourselves? When we come up with a business idea, to be creative, we base what we're coming up with on things we've thought about and experienced. AI is just taking data, storing it, and using that same concept and creating something. Because the old adage is anything actually new and unique, or is it just an evolution of something else?
So what you're saying is that we as a human, we have a lot of information in our brains and then we have an idea.
But
And it's the same thing that the AI does.
well, similar. I mean, not exactly, but I think that's the goal of AI is to eventually do that, right?
I think the business example is an interesting comparison. So if you're going to start a business, you're going to have an intention. That's going to not just be a desire, because as you were saying, tons of people have ideas, they have desires, but you've got to actually have an intention that turns into a plan that you stick with and execute over time. So a creative process can be similar. You can have an intention to create art, even if you don't really know what art is, even if you don't really know exactly what it's going to look like, you still have an intention towards this thing that you're doing that persists the process. So when you're looking at AI, it has arguably, you could say maybe it has the creative part. Maybe some people might argue that it's a collective unconscious, that it's taken all of human knowledge and imagery and just put it into this soup that it can draw upon. but does it have a life history? Does it have a point of view? Does it have the ability to have an intention and a plan that persists over time? And I would say probably not now. And if it does, we're going to be having an interesting conversation about AI rights and actual artificial life, I would think, because it seems like maybe you need to get there to have all these other things. Or if you have all these other things, maybe you do have artificial life at that point.
Wow.
And it sounds so funny how you say that. It sounds very futuristic, but that's so real. Because I think that one of the main class for me was the design of algorithms. And the reason is because I needed to come out with the idea how to create a structure for the machine to do. So for me, creating a prompt is the same thing. That's a creative thing because I need to ask a question in the way that I want that answer. They can give me an answer, but I say that's incorrect, can you do this? And they continue on, right? So to me, it's just the application is way faster and the outcome is way better. But coming to the morality of it, like, are we prepared for that part? Are we conscious about it? Are we conscious of what we're doing? Because that to me is the situation. Like every time that they tell us the job of a CEO is to deliver for the stockholders. That's your number one responsibility. It's your legal obligation. But now I need to decide which one is my stockholders. Where do they want to work and what they're going to do, what they stand for, right? But I don't think that people separate those conversations. Because one thing is the technology of AI, and another thing is going into the morality of who manages the AI or how they do it. So that's way.
Well, in the book of the moral of AI of what's the name? You have read it. Wally.
Is that Jana and Walter's book?
Let me see. Jana, yeah.
Jana and Walter.
Yeah. In that book, they mention something about it because they argue that if we are constantly going to the AI and asking questions and making the prompt, now we the human beings, we are more depending on the answer of the AI instead of just using as a help to give me orientation.
Yeah.
And now it's changing because I use this example very often. I went with one lady to a dinner and she took me from Broadway to Melting Pot and she drives to all 281, 1604, Blanco, and then go down and say, what happened here, man? So, and I asked her, do you realize what happened? I said, no, but Google Maps bring me here. And I use that route. And I said, but you don't realize that it was a waste of time and so on because you don't question what the AI is telling you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the part where I say, wow, we need to be more, aware of what the AI is doing. Because otherwise we are not going to have any moral or control on our life because we are depending of what AI is doing and is saying.
But to me, that's a point of view. Well, what if that was important to you, but what if what was important for her was to spend time with you? So the longer the better. That to me comes a part of morality. Like, what is important for the people? Like, do we care to learn what somebody else is?
Is the important thing getting from point A to point B? Right?
Yeah.
That example. So the AI, of course, will get better over time.
Yeah.
So that long roundabout way, in 6 to 12 months, the AI will probably give. If you look at the evolution of maps, and it's the same thing. We tend to forget. I think is that technology isn't stagnant. It continues to get better, good or bad. That's different. But it will. That example you used in a year will probably not happen because of the way the technology will improve. And then, is it important to know exactly? That's the question. Is it important to know how to get from here to there? Is it important for someone to know how to read a map right now? Is it or isn't it?
Well, I was in the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Gala, and when I tell him this experience, the guy that was close to me was a fireman. And he told me that happened to us very often. And I said, wow, using the same example, I said, wow, if I stay with a girl 15 or 20 minutes more in the car, so there is no problem. I am having a chat and so on. But for a fireman, to get late 1 minute later could be
Life.
a life. It could be a life thing. So my point is that when we take control of what we are doing, then we can, get rid of the AI, because at the end, what I learned is that we are since the philosophy point of view, we are the object, and the AI or anything else is the subject. No, sorry. We are the subject and they are the object. So we control the object. What is happening now is the other way around.
Yeah.
Because they are controlling, the AI is controlling the human.
But
They say, go this way and do this.
is that a technology problem or the people problem?
I think that's a good question. We're going to hit, I think it'll help to differentiate intrinsic goal states from instrumental goal states. So when it comes to creativity, are we looking for creativity as a form of human excellence, as human expression? Because one of the main ways that we find meaning in life, we can find it through creative achievement. Artists, but not just artists, plenty of hobbyists, music, art, people who dabble, but they still have a goal that they pursue. The end state is the creative process. And so for something to be an achievement, it needs to have an element of difficulty. There's got to be something to be overcome to make it an achievement. So if AI takes away the thing to be overcome, then it makes it less of an achievement. And there's some examples. For instance, there can be master photographers, but if you look at photography versus oil painting, typically you're going to say oil painting is a more difficult medium, and you're going to think somebody who paints something in oils, apart from maybe an Ansel Adams photographer, it has accomplished a greater artistic achievement than somebody who's taken a photograph, bracketing the masters. So we could argue that AI images is maybe its own medium, but does it require the same sort of application of skill, personal development point of view to where it provides the meaning that only comes with difficult achievement?
What do you think?
That brings up some interesting points. I mean, I think overall, if you look at technology, disrupts every aspect of business, of everything. So right now, AI with Nano Banana and all these tools that can now just, hey, here's my picture, put me here, do all this creative quote unquote things. I mean, it's disrupting what traditionally we have done with cameras and everything else. How far it goes, but it's just another industry that's being disrupted. It really is. If you look through things through history, it hasn't been disrupted by any, you could say Photoshop disrupted and I remember when Photoshop came out, it's the end of creativity too. I mean, it was this argument, not as big an argument probably, but it was still an argument because it didn't affect as many people. Because not that many people could use it. It was a difficult product to use. But now that we have AI, and I can prompt it and say, put me at Disneyland, and I'm riding, this ride, and make it look, I could have done that with Photoshop 10 years ago, but it would have taken me hours and hours to do it. Now it's just taking less time, so it's disrupting things. But is that terrible? I don't know.
Let me ask on that. This is what I wanted to say, an intrinsic versus an instrumental goal. So if your goal is business and marketing, then assuming that you don't have an audience that just really cares about organically human imagery, I think instrumentally it's certainly a good in that sense. But if it's creating art to be collected, can it still be an intrinsic good?
I think, like you said, if it becomes its own medium and it's collected, then
There could be somebody who's a just really expert prompt engineer with really good taste.
Yeah, exactly.
And they know how to evaluate, just like a good photographer selects the right photo from dozens or more.
Because you could argue, I guess, we eventually, we as humans will take the technology and improve it and use it in different ways that AI at this point maybe can't.
I want to throw this out there too. First off, I think the younger generation, I think they're not taking this as seriously as maybe people at this table talk. I'm 46 years old, and I'm talking about the 20 and 30 somethings that really don't understand what paradigm shift is coming our way. And so I'm a little concerned about that. But also, you talk about the moral. I've met really good people, and I've met really bad or evil people, So if we've got that at a human aspect, or do we got to worry about that on the morality of AI? Because and I'm not a smart guy, guys, compared to y'all. We're the ones that are generating this information to AI to basically determine or process for us. So if we put in good, I'm hoping we get good. But if you got other bad stuff and saying, hey, he needs to tilt this way, what do we do? When we're depending on this artificial intelligence to guide us in the right direction, I can go down this rabbit hole. It's exhausting and then you just got to stop. Okay, I got to get back to work in the rest of my life right now. But at the same time, it's just, I think it's going to be a little overwhelming. I think it's kind of asleep right now. All the stuff behind the scenes with the AI. Just me figuring out the little things that I can use to improve myself and my business. It's been great. But man, I'm concerned about the unknowns, out there. So,
But I think the challenge now for all of us is that it's happening so fast. Historically, when technology's been adopted by civilization, how long did it take the PC to get into the house? How long did it take people to use smartphones? How long did it to adapt the internet? Now AI is just a fraction of that time, so it's hitting us a lot fast. We don't have time to adjust to it because it's happening so fast, and I think that's a challenge for society in itself. What do I do? I'm trying to keep up with it. I was listening to a podcast on the way over here, and people they're actually stressing out on the fact that they can't keep up on what's happening in AI. And this was she's an AI specialist, and I forget what university, and she goes, I don't know why they're stressing out because we shouldn't worry about that part of it.
I agree with that. And the reason is because in every single statement that we make it from our point of view, right? How the world that we know is going to be disrupted. And I think that is the first time that the people that is not aware to that is realizing that they're not in a bubble. They're part of a city, a state, a country, a world, an ecosystem. And because a lot of the things that we're talking now, I saw them 10 years back in Beijing, in Shanghai. It was part of the conversation. We live in a bubble, like in the moment that we live right now, we live in a protected bubble. And to me, the problem is no AI, because same as you, I always say, we went to the beeper, to the brick, to the flag, to all these kind of phones and interactions, and then the internet. I saw the encyclopedia and I see all that kind of stuff. We have point of reference. The new generations, they're like, this is how things work. So what's the big deal, right? So that's why it makes for us to be like, wait, what are you going to do?
They don't know the challenges of having a phone with a cord to it to the wall.
Exactly. I have one of those ones, one of the really heavy, almost to somebody gave it to me. And my niece came for visit. And she was like, oh, this is so cute. I saw these things before. I'm like, okay, great. So I think that to your point, right? You can have a great image made by AI, and you can have a great painting, but it's not what is worth it. It's what is worth it for the people that see it.
I want to throw something out because I think there's that question is the value for the audience. I'm never going to pay as much for an AI generated image as I would for an oil painting.
for instance.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
But
That would be right.
let's also think about what it does as we were talking about future generations. So I want to say there's value in children doodling and trying to take what's in their head and get it on paper. And there's a certain type of learning process that is actually having cognitive effects, that it's creating new concepts in their brain as they work this out, because it's not just the physical mind, hand, vision, but it's them thinking through what are they trying to do, and that act of thinking and struggling to try to express themselves has a lot of learning value. And I worry, and I would love to see a study what percent of kids doodle when they're bored, because kids aren't bored anymore, but that used to be one of the main things kids would do.
But could you equate that to prompting?
Because
you're creatively, you're thinking, you're trying to think through things, and you're just using words instead of doodling.
Sorry, I am lost. Doodling is like
Like the one, los garabatos.
Garabatos, okay.
But to your point, when you say early on about marketing, right? Marketing is a huge umbrella. You have the technology part, you have the data part, you have the strategy part, you have the data, like all these different things, right? One of the things that I love to concentrate is consumer behavior, right? Because the consumer behavior tells you the data and it's connected in that way. The newer generations, they don't care about screens because they're trying to teach their kids to not be dependable of the screens as they are, because they know that they're dependable on their phone, their watches, and all that kind of stuff, right? So they're doing all the stuff. They want them to get dirty. So I think that it goes this way, and
It ebbs and flows.
it's in flow, yeah, because my sister, I just have a nephew. She's all about manual stuff, but she doesn't want to do all the things that we did. Like my parents were like, here's a computer, great. Here's another, great, right? Different ways. So I'm wondering, but based on what you're asking, if we're going into the other side of the appreciation of the local.
You brought up the encyclopedia that triggered me a minute ago. I was naive to this because my father brokers these insulated panels out of Mexico, typically for cold storage, food storage, stuff like that. You see in freezers or huge, facilities when we bring produce over from Mexico. And I'll never forget this. He was starting getting these projects, and very large ones, for data centers.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Gosh, what are we talking about? This data centers." It was all this stuff from our computer, or this information has to go somewhere. It doesn't go up into the air. It's got to be stored. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. It's got to go somewhere, right? And then we start digging in. Fast forward, I've got a client here in San Antonio that's working that project in Abilene for this huge data center, over there. I'm thinking, God, this is, if we start using more and more of this, we're going to need more energy, we're going to need more space. You're going to need to protect it, because if you have a power outage or a natural disaster, you could lose all this information. Encyclopedia, at least we had a hard copy of it. How do you protect yourselves? How do you have countermeasures? I don't go down another rabbit hole off of that, but that was an eye-opener for me too, on the sheer space you need for this AI or for the data storage, and the energy it takes and will cost to keep the machines running and going. So that's opportunities. Like for my client, they're building these huge centers, they're making a killing with that as well. There's so much going on with it.
But if you think about, the amount of energy, space, and power it will take to do a lot of these things will continue to decrease.
You think so?
Yeah,
Do the okay.
Well, it'll continue. So what I've always found is when we talk about, technology, and we talk about the future of technology, people tend to forget that things get smaller, chips get smaller, power consumptions get smaller. Now, that's an argument for less power, but we are, as humans, we demand more. Because I always use that, I've been in cell phone business, I used to work for BlackBerry, and you look at the iPhone, like your typical iPhone or smartphone, why can't we get more battery life out of a phone? After all these years, why can't we? it's still the average, the average amount of time, it still dies after so many hours. Because if technology was static, or we would be able to have that. My phone would last for 5 days.
If you had the internet,
But
you
we
would last.
demand more.
Yeah.
We demand better screens. We demand better everything as consumers.
Yeah.
As consumers, so I think that's interesting. We could have consume less power, less all of that stuff. So if the general public, we decide, oh, I don't need better phones anymore, and some people argue that we're getting to a point where they keep adding stuff and nobody uses the new features of the phones. They really don't.
Well, I think this ties into both the progress of AI and some of the things that give humans creativity and a point of view in a life history. And it's unclear, to me at least, whether we'll get there. So I'll go out on a limb and maybe argue for the idea that we have hit peak AI for now, at least with LLM models. And there are other people who think this. Jan LeCun, who's the head of AI at Meta, has famously been saying LLMs are a dead end for many, many years. Point being, we saw with GPT-4.5 to GPT-5 that we had this hypothesis, we throw enough compute, we throw enough data, we will evolve intelligence. It didn't happen. That was an empirical scientific question. There might be another attempt at that, but it turns out that maybe evolution has a few more tricks that can't be mimicked by just a lot of compute and a lot of data. So this ties into life history point of view. Right now, AI has discrete training runs. There's no way of continuous learning. There's not an easy way. You can kind of give it a pseudo memory, but it's not updating its neural network in the way that we do. And we do that through something called childhood. So through childhood, we're constantly iterating our neural network, our beliefs, our desires, our creativity, and there isn't an analog for that for AI right now. Now we could try to do that, but that starts getting really weird. And I think that ties in because right now we have, maybe we hit peak LLM. Some people might argue that GPT-5 is there. Agentic stuff is not delivered. And everyone says it's going to, but maybe to have an agentic AI, you actually need an AI that has self-interest so that it can weigh what it's doing. And again, this comes back to creativity because are we actually going to get intentions, planning, point of view in a way that looks like humans?
That's a good point because Duncan Wardle, he used to be the creativity guy of Disney. He defined that the AI cannot do is imagination, innovation, creativity, and intuition. So that takes me to the human part, where I think I agree with him because at least I agree with him in the intuition part. Maybe and the imagination, maybe the creativity and so on, because we have discussed the creativity. The AI is going to take from everything that is inside the data that already exists, that we already put it in. But innovation, but imagination and intuition, how we are going to do that? The classic entrepreneurial startup that says, I want to be the next Zuckerberg, or I want to be the next Elon Musk. And what I always do the comparison is, Bosniak and Steve Jobs, they were in the same school, they were in the same neighborhood, they were in the same socioeconomic level. However, Steve Jobs was like a hero of success, and Steve Bosniak was close to it. So what's the difference? The difference was obviously the intuition, because Steve Jobs has the intuition, how you say in America, the guts, to say, I need to talk with this person, or I need to do this today, or I see this and I am going to go and read. That, I think that's the part where AI is not going to be, so far, because at this point, you can say so far, is not going to be replaceable with AI. So that's very, very human. And that's the part where creativity and then imagination, again, takes part. Because only when you read about the artists that they are painting, here we have one, they feel this kind of, emotional part when they are painting, that they forget about everything that is outside. And they are in this mood where they are painting, or Beethoven when he was, when I read the biography of Beethoven, when he was, playing the ninth or the fifth symphony. There is only 4 musical, notes. With only 4 musical notes, he built a complete symphony. The ta-ta-ta-ta, ta-ta-ta-ta. So they are 4 only, notes. And he created a whole thing. But when they have this stage of their mind and the body, so that's the part where I say AI, I think, is very complicated that they be in that situation. Because AI is going to be only reading, information and has an output.
For now.
Yeah, that's why I said
So you bring up an outlet. Because of the technology, I'm a workaholic, and it helps me produce more, and I think I can get more done. And I think it'll kill me because I can't disconnect, and that's another thing. I think that's something we'll have to talk about, for mental health and everything. Hey, okay, I gotta stop this for a minute. Okay, now I don't need to go to bed and check emails or check the web. I think everybody knows it's been a problem for even before this AI stuff really started coming up. It's just absolute disconnection. I used to enjoy going to Mexico to my wife's family and visiting them. You know what I look forward to? My phone wouldn't work years ago.
Yeah.
I would disconnect. I would disappear for a little while.
Yeah.
That was nice. I mean, before that, it was just getting up in an airplane when our phones didn't work there. Nobody could touch you, right? And I look back at that and I'm like, man, I kind of had some clarity. There's so much noise from my phone in my pocket, from my computer, and everything out there. I'm worried about all of our mental health too, because we're so connected and so driven in this technology that I'm the first one to admit, I think I gotta get better disconnected from it.
Let me take the opposite of that. So what I found is I've been a workaholic, again, forever, because I've always tried to keep up with technology, so I'm constantly reading about it, I've never been able to stop. But what I see with AI now is the ability for AI to learn what's important to me, so it's only going to notify me when certain emails are sent to me. I don't have to check it now all the time. It doesn't. There's certain appointments that are on there, but I only want to be reminded of certain things, so it allows me some freedom in a way. I will, with the idea of I work whenever, all the time, but I can take small breaks and throughout the day and do things and not have to constantly.
Without having all the other noise.
Yeah, it's like I control the noise that I get instead of having to, because in the past we've had to check it all, but now it's pretty close. Within a few years, for sure, it'll be able to know exactly. Only notify me with text messages with my wife, my kids. Certain baseline. Everything else, if it's from this person,
there's a Scud missile heading.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But again, that's kind of a different point of view of that. But I see the power of AI being able to do that. Good or bad, I don't know. But
And there's something in there because you get this little twinge of the AI knowing what matters. And what matters can mean a lot in a different context. But in this case, it knows what matters to you in terms of your attention.
Yeah.
And this has to do with creativity too, because as someone was mentioning, an artist, as they're working, they know whether what they're producing is good or bad. It's this very intuitive, it's not something we can necessarily put math to. They just have a sense. You might say it's a metacognition, it's a thinking about thinking or thinking about their process, where they know if it's good or bad. So we're seeing hints of this, and okay, this is something good to interrupt you with, maybe this is something we don't interrupt you with, but I don't know if we're going to see this in a way for creativity or, the AI CEO.
That's monetized. I mean, people are spending billions of dollars to advertise specific ways to us to get us to, okay, I got to buy that, or I got to click on that and say
But
that.
is it an algorithm basically? I mean, right now, Netflix decides what it pops up and shows me because of what I've done. But if we can control our own, algorithm, and we create our own personal algorithm that's used in AI, it's a little, right now it's being controlled by other people.
And there's feedback for that, because you can tell it, I care about this, I don't care about this.
But not necessarily. I mean, that's the thing that to me, it is more important than the conversation of AI. It's like, this is like mirrors, right? And maybe it's more conscious who we are when things pop up on our Gmail or social media or advertising, right? Like, it tells you probably your behavior. That before we were not conscious about it, we were biased or unconscious about it, but it's telling you kind of who you are. It's the data that is showing you that. But going to both of your points, I'm the opposite. I'm a lazy person, right? I really enjoy to have my feet on the pole, right? And I read that, dogs and stuff like that. So I'll do the opposite to how to maximize my performance, to have my free time, okay? But to learn to do that, on top of that one, I am ambitious and I'm a control freak. So I see it from a different perspective. I'm not gonna let nobody to your email to determine who I'm supposed to speak on talk or answer. I want to know, right? Now, with that, I can teach technology how to mimic my behavior. That's the way that I see it. But I wanted to have control of that. That's what I know, how many steps that I wanted to do per day, how many times I see my phone, all these metrics is telling me who you are. To me, and this is the reason why we work with college students. When I used to work for a university here, most of the students came to my office and they have no clue who they want to become. You're going to spend thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases, for when you put the responsibility of your family or somebody else's into a university. That doesn't happen in other countries. Like in other countries, you go to a university because you know how you're going to make money out of it, what are the opportunities that you can have. That doesn't happen here. Most of the people say, I just go to college and I graduate and now what? I don't know, I'm 6 months to graduate and I don't know what to do. I'm like, that's your problem. So that continues through life when we allow these things to control. Don't get me wrong, I scroll and I'm like, wait, it's been an hour on Instagram, but I'm aware of it. So to me, that behavior is more important to determine what AI can and cannot do. Because if we're not aware what AI can do for us, just let it do. That's how I see it.
Okay, so then how we can, or what happens then with the critical thinking in AI?
We're doomed.
We what?
We're
Yeah.
doomed.
Don't tell me that, Justin.
Jeez.
It was my last hope. Because one of the problems that I see, and I keep reading, one of the things that I see is that the problem that we have as a humankind is that the humankind is evolving, our body, mind, brains, and everything, in a linear point of view. And the problem that we are facing now is that the technology is evolving in an exponential point of view. So it's clear that the technology is very ahead of us. That's why we have these problems we cannot adapt to the technology so fast in order that our brains and neurons, they used to be with more, display, digital display. That's a problem. Right now it's a problem. The kids is, there are a lot of research that a lot of, neuroscientists, is that right? Neuroscientists, that they say kids, they cannot touch a digital display until one say 10 years, others say, another guy says 18 years, I say, wow, this guy lives in Mars. So Yeah, because I mean, who is going to?
And everything's gonna be coached there, Martha.
So that's my point. So what I see is that we have to adapt to the technology, and the problem right now is that we are very far away from adapting to the technology. Because at the end, the human being, our body, is adapting to the environment. Of course, that since millions of years ago. The problem that we have now, and there is a book of, unfortunately it's in Spanish, La Era de Idiotas, the idiots era, translated into English. It says that we are going to have a big problem with the planet Earth in 2100, because the temperature of the Earth is going to be above 5 degrees more than we have now. And that's a problem for the humankind. Because then, if you have read the Cosmos of Carl Sagan, since then, Carl Sagan says, well, the problem that we have as a humankind is that in that book that he wrote in 1990 something, he says that we don't have the technology to create another environment outside the planet Earth to conserve the humankind. So we have a rush, he encouraged us, we have a rush to create the technology and the science to build something that we can live outside the planet Earth. The problem that 30 years later, we are seeing other scientists saying almost the same thing. Because this guy says 2100, we are not going to be able to live in planet Earth because we are going to be 5 degrees or more warmer than right now. So that's going to be complicated for the human. So that we don't realize that. And then I need to talk about the human part of the philosophy part, of society part of the human, where we are so selfish, we are so greedy, that we are not looking at that.
In general, not everybody.
Yeah, of course, in general. I mean,
As a general statement, no.
yes, as a general statement, this is not how to say everybody. I mean, I told you a book that I read about it. That guy is concerned about it. But the problem that I see is that we are so greedy, so selfish, that we are forgetting about it. And that's the part where the moral and philosophy and other human science needs to take control on the technology and STEM, sciences. Because since 2000 till now, everybody was like saying, oh, STEM sciences are the best thing, and everybody was encouraging his kids, you need to be STEM, mathematics, coders, and technology, and so on, that we forgot that we are humans, and we have feelings, and we have needs, and we have a brain that is in constant stress, and we need to be healthy. And that's the part where I am concerned, and that's why I begin this journey of, because I am worried about the humankind every time that I read this, and believe me, I wake up every morning optimistic. However, when I begin to read a book, or when I see in a restaurant a father that says to his children of 5 years old, don't bother me, take this, and oh wow, I say, how this is happening? And obviously I understand that they have problems, the economy in the world is not very good for everybody, so they need maybe to work, extra time, overtime, and they are tired, and they don't be educated, they don't read, they don't have time to know how to raise kids, and they don't know this. So, because I don't believe that any father or any parent in the world wants to damage his children on purpose. I don't believe that. However, if they don't know how they are going to change that. So that's the problem with the technology, where we are evolving in the linear point of view, and the technology is exponential. So that's why, for me, the critical thinking with AI becomes more important. And just to keep my point, and you can talk about it, is there is a research of Lego in Europe that says more than 60% of influencers, they don't read, they don't check when they repost something. They just repost. And that's a problem, because they have a responsibility. I mean, if I say something right now, my responsibility falls in 5 persons. That's it. But when you are an influencer and you have 2 million people looking at you, then you have that size of your responsibility. And that's why we have problems of kids that they throw, how is it? Se tragaron el typo, the typos, and they die. Because someone with no responsibility, they share that. So responsibility, trust, and all the values that are humans, that's where I see that we need as a critical thinking, and we need to nurture in the humankind. So what do you think about it?
Well, so I'll echo your "we're doomed" comment and try to motivate it and defend it a little bit. At least America is doomed. Other countries,
At least America, what?
America is doomed. The United States, as we know it, is doomed for this because we have such entrenched financial interests that we don't have an ability not just to regulate, but to recognize the problem. So everything that you're explaining cognitively is something that is way worse than cigarettes, and we're in the position we were in with the 50s with the brain, where we know what's happening. We're all reward learning organisms. This is why people talk about dopamine, this is cocaine, we are reward learning organisms. And we have something that has adapted through learning algorithms to hijack our reward learning. So one of the easiest ways to optimize for engagement is just change the reward system of your audience. Yeah. That's easier sometimes than trying to fit them. But the bigger problem that we have is children are never bored. They don't learn the value of struggle. And struggle is so important to be a human being. So our problem is our brain is learning what type of attention patterns are rewarding. And I struggle with this because I use AI nonstop in real estate. I'm always saying, what's the building code for this? Is my plumber lying to me? Et cetera, et cetera. Constant stimulation. And then I try to go write academic papers, and it takes me about an hour to shift my brain into sustained attention. And so we're seeing this now with universities, where we have poisoned the reward system of the future generations to where their brains cannot let them have an expectation of gaining reward from anything but immediate satisfaction. They have psychological difficulty when you take their phones away or you ban them in classrooms. So I don't know what we do about that, because this is something that you have to learn from early childhood, that struggle has value.
But is it the phone that's the problem? Or is it the platform, the social media platforms that are the problem?
It's anything that's constant stimulation and reward versus anything that is taking away from long-term
I think that the question of Michael is the device or is the platform?
So, yeah. I mean, if you look at, I'll just look it up again, the Communications Decency Act, which basically says social media platforms are not responsible for their content. If that had not been passed, we'd be in a different world right now. That means Facebook, all these platforms would be responsible. So platforms are not responsible for their for the content that are posted. They're not liable for it.
So they don't have to police it.
Yeah, that's why we have all the algorithms the way they are and all that. If social media platforms were responsible for what was posted, so I don't know what level of responsibility, I'm not a lawyer at all, it would be very different, I think.
That happened because it was a lot of the bullying and bad things happen through social media. But I always come back to this thing, like I see different behaviors from different people based on how their mindset is framed. Okay, because like I can assure you that it's a lot of people across the world that they have needs right now, and they're struggling and they're figuring it out things right. Like the fact that we are surrounded by people that we live in a comfortable living is not the majority of the people in this world. It's a lot of people struggling on it, right? And they don't know about technologies and all that kind of stuff. But
And everybody's clueless of what's going on.
and they're clueless, right? But I don't even think of that way. What I see in different countries is like, if you depending what is the structure that your family created for you or your environment created for you. Let's not make it about families. Your environment created for you. You create these standards and this moral behavior that you're going to regulate through the rest of your life, or at least in different situations, right? Because we know what is good and what is bad. And we have the power to decide what is good and what is bad.
We mean in society, or we mean individuals?
Individually, as a person, like we do that. Like, I mean, I can give you examples of things that we didn't, or parents didn't teach us, and we wanted to learn it and do it, and we find out, and we learn it, and we master it, right? Because the motivation is there. From more perspective,
Where do we get that from, though?
so from what we do, we have 3 pillars on our company: motivation, skills, and environment. Okay, we don't do nothing with skills and nothing with environment if the person doesn't have identified. I'm not even saying right or wrong. Identify the right motivation. We as a society, we do things repeatedly. We wake up, brush your teeth, have a coffee, shower, dress, go to work, lunch, right? Like it's all these things that they're being created that we just do it. We're like a hamster rat, like going around, right? But when things happen, like you lose your job, somebody pass away, or like so many different things, it creates these breaks that people start saying like, wait, what am I doing? What is this, right? Those are the moments of growth, like in our childhood thing. So I believe more on that. I believe more in that the human power to master, control, and do things on it. Because that to me is a challenge. When I'm having a group of students, right, and they don't feel like they can speak their minds. They don't feel like they have an opinion. They don't know how to discuss. They don't know how to have different points of view, right? Like, that to me is a challenge. That to me is a bigger problem to it. Because again, it's gonna be the cell phone, it's gonna be the internet, it's gonna be, in this case, the AI. Doesn't really matter. It's the people that have the control and the master that they can manipulate somebody else that is not ready to do that, right? You don't need to be a master in AI to live in this world. Every single of us have to have done a living with what we do because we figured it out. You know, we're like, hey, we did it. So that I don't know. That's what I love entrepreneurship. That's what I love entrepreneurial skills. That's what I always go back to the human part before I even think about that technology.
So you are saying that we need basically more critical thinking.
Yeah, you need an environments and the structures that they make you think and question. Like every time that somebody says something, I say, why? And they struggle, and they come out and say, okay, why? Did you just
I just think that there's gonna be a crossroads. I mean, I brought up my age a minute ago. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And I just think the generation behind me, they're getting all this technology, this AI, everything. And I'm selfishly saying this, me being a Generation Xer, I think I grew up in the best time you could grow up. I was talking to one of my clients about this in South Texas, and we lived in South Texas was, we had our big wheels, they had our phones, the beepers and pagers. We didn't have all this crazy technology. It was a good time. I'm just anxious and a little concerned with our AI and the technology and how it's progressing, that Generation X is kind of the only one that's kind of saw what the boomers and their parents had to deal with, even if we saw that at a young age. And now we're seeing what the younger generations, Generation X, is dealing with, and we're going to have to help moderate that morale. Does that make sense?
Interesting.
I think that we're gonna be in the same generations that we're gonna be in the same situations that they are.
I
I'm not sure.
I'm older than you are, and I sit down and talk to a lot of young people a lot, and I always amazed at how much smarter they are than I was at their age. How much, a lot of them have much more common sense than I did. I'm actually encouraged. I mean, yes, they have issues like every generation, but I'm pretty impressed with the way they, a lot, and in general, I'm talking generally they don't drink as much, they're more responsible in certain things where I wasn't at all, So I guess I'm kind of the opposite. I'm kind of encouraged,
And I'm glad you're telling me that, because I think this younger generation that's going to have this AI, they don't know real struggles. I've got clients that are immigrants from all over the world, from Burma, where they're having civil wars, from Ukraine, where they had to deal with that, Mexico, and I've got family and ties into Mexico, so I've got to see that perspective. You brought up the struggle, that one of the favorite pastimes that I have was having visits with my grandmother. She went through the Dust Bowl, world wars, the Depression, some really serious stuff. And I just think our younger generation just doesn't know what tough can really be, because of the luxuries that we have of technology and AI.
But is that good or bad?
Yeah.
So your grandmother point and your environment point, I think, are really important, because where do we get our conscience from? Where do we get our moral system from? We're social learning creatures. Evolution has hardwired our brain to say we should import the value systems of our social world. And by that, it's what goal states in the world are good and what goal states in the world are bad. But the way that our brain does that is through exposure. Because through evolution, whoever you look at the most is probably the leader of your society. So we probably should have some hardwiring to import their value system. Well, now, rather than your grandmother or your family, it's influencers. Mm-hmm. But the scarier thing, so it's really hijacking our social evolution. The scarier thing is Meta's pivot away from the metaverse is companion apps. They now want every 5-year-old to have a meta friend that grows up with them, that they're going to spend all of their time with. They're going to have more face time, because these things may have faces. Mm-hmm. They're going to have more face time with the meta virtual friend, which means that it hijacks all of our social cognition to where the value system, the moral system, the biggest influence on that could very well be the imaginary friend versus the grandma versus your culture versus your identity.
We used to have these little things called Tamagotchis.
Oh, yeah. Tamagotchi.
Okay, so what I'm saying is it have a different impact, right? But we have those Tamagotchis. We have the Nintendos. We have all these different things that it was kind of similar, but coming to the 5-year-old, right? Who is introducing you to that? Who is allowing you to do that? That to me, again, coming back to the human question, to the human perspective, it's my mom say, hey, you can play 30 minutes on the Atari and it's done, right? And then for next day, no, I'm not gonna buy a Nintendo. I want it. No. You see what I'm saying? To me, that's the part, we have the power and the control.
That's where the parents go.
Yeah. Thank you. Right. Or your environment, because when I was with my grandma, that was worse. It's I already told you until you once, that's it, right? So.
No, well, I mean, my mother would only look at me. I was scared, and when I arrive home, I'm dead.
Yeah, exactly. So I probably, because I see this in different cultures, I believe that's the situation on it. Now, I also see careless in other cultures, right? and I see misinformation in other cultures. I see ignorance and uneducation in all the cultures on it. So I think that we're looking this one, we try to see this in a global perspective, when actually this should be like a pyramid, like people of knowledge and access and information on it. Because that's what we're trying to do with what we do. Like we have the pyramid of hierarchies. What is it? Maslow, right? You cannot care about the second if you're at the bottom, right? So that was a lesson that helped us to create the pillars that allow us to section the people and how they grow into what we want to do. So when we ask people, what are you trying to achieve? Some of these people say, I just want a job so I can feed my family. Perfect. Priority number one. Doesn't really matter what job that is, we're going to get your job, because with that, you're going to cover that. Then you can continue growing, right? So I don't know. I go back to the human perspective.
I think we got a pretty good litmus test on, and I'll throw this in there just to pop in my head, Luis, on how technology, affected a huge event, a worldwide event, 9/11. I'll never forget the day that I was there, but when that happened, everybody was united. You're checking on your neighbors. Everybody was there for each other. And then you fast forward to COVID. I mean, we were witnessing an online civil war. From the entire world. I saw one situation globally that was affected by algorithms and the technology, and it just that could have been a uniting moment, and it was chaos. And maybe y'all think I'm wrong on this. I saw that 9/11 situation when I was in my 20s or whatever when that happened, and it just seemed like that worldwide event, everybody banded together on the entire planet, and then with COVID, everything fell apart.
I think from an international point of view, you're right, but I think from a local, smaller level, I would disagree. Because I saw, again, my kids, I saw them band together with their friends, constantly, how's it going? Yeah, they're smaller communities.
We started caring.
Because of technology, they were able to keep in touch, do Zoom calls with each other, watch movies together, things like that, so they could adapt to it. Not that everybody adapted the right way, but I saw both sides. You're right. Yeah. From a global point of view, it looked like terrible, but from a micro point of view, I was pretty impressed with what was happening. The support of each other, the friendships that developed, and things like that.
To come to that point, what I said, like sometimes we try to make sense, generalizing an idea, and for me, that's the mistake of the conversations that we're having, because it comes to the life of every person and it comes to the experience of every person, and I don't think that we're asking those questions. I don't think that we're asking what we're getting out of the technology, how we're utilizing the technology.
Because I'm just using it and consuming it.
Yeah, because I was over there in September 11, right? Same thing. Like I used to own a restaurant in New York City, and when that happened, I saw that happening all around. But it was the same thing with for us, like in COVID, how my family from Italy, Spain, Ecuador, how were we unifying in different ways? We used to have these Zoom parties, like everybody would get wine. So I think that the technology can be utilized based on the person, or the technology is like the mirror. It gives us what we ask them for. Like going back to that AI, like to me, it's more important to have that conscious to know that things can be good, can be bad, and how is our society going into that direction. Because that to me is more concerning. I think that we're more careless, more selfish, more egocentric, and that is making us be less caring about what I say and what I do is affecting actually our community, right? Like that to me.
That could
So we're saying that
years.
with the human, we are not getting together and creating more trust only in big events where we have like a 9/11, like a COVID or something like that. Yeah. So because before, in my family in the 60s when I was raised, I mean, everybody was, that was common to be together. I mean, we have lunch together, we breakfast together, we, stay in the family Saturday and Sundays.
Yeah.
That was
Sometimes you go to your
regular,
mom's.
so, exactly. But nowadays I see more, like isolation. The kids, they are playing with these things, and they, even though that maybe they are physically together, they don't speak.
Well, that's something very
That's what I am
about
concerned about the critical thinking, because when we have that isolation, then we don't have a way to learn more about others. I have experience to speak with teenagers nowadays, and I can tell you, I mean, you cannot have a conversation of 2 minutes with them. 2 minutes. They speak like if they were talking with X or Twitter, 140 characters, 2 phrases, 2 minutes, and then they feel desperate to be talking.
We gotta check out.
And they want to check exactly. That's
What did you say that when you were a
that's-
teenager?
Well, I might be
Like, I think that we all were like that. Like, leave me alone, don't talk to me. Like that's the thing. Like, if it wasn't for my grandmother saying, "You're gonna sit down with me, you're gonna do the party, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that," I wouldn't have done that too. Because this is like for me when my family did visit, right? I have 14 people in my house.
Mhm.
And by the time that we had the dinner, we sit in a very long table, and it's like no phones. But no phones, right? And then my sister said, let me check. I'm like, how do you want me to teach the kids if you don't want to do that, right? It requires that, in my case, that control. Like I say, like, this is my house, this is my rules, right? Because they do, they start talking, and we show them that, like, but I still don't talk to them.
No,
But they gotta avoid the reverend, you know?
person is super important. And I love the world that you're painting, and I worry that it's slipping through our fingers because not enough parents know the dangers that are happening here. For instance, when we get together in person, what we're all doing right now, we learn how to disagree with people growing up. One of the things we're seeing with students now, they don't know the skill of disagreeing, in part because AI is always your cheerleader. So if you're interacting with AI, it's constantly saying, you're right, you're right, you're right.
Yes.
And
Right,
it's
right.
fine-tuned for that because that's what gets more interaction, and so that's what the AI companies have fine-tuned.
Great question. That's really my, and I'm
Exactly.
like, no, just help me figure out my
I am super.
Then we also have, we've all heard of mirror neurons, so when we're sitting here, we're empathizing with each other, which is a skill that really it can happen a little bit through the screen, but only real time. So if you have these rehearsed, selected clips that people post to social media that are, 15, 30 seconds, 1 minute, that aren't real-time video, where we're able to engage mirror neurons and empathize, we're losing a really fundamental human ability that has to happen through childhood and adolescence.
I love that.
No, well, I mean, that the reason I say that is because one of the big problems that we have as a humankind, because it's not only United States or Latin America, is that every year we read less, deep reading.
Mm-hmm.
Because Marianne Wolf, she wrote a book that says Reader Come Home. In that book she explains that we nowadays, we read more than never before. The problem is that what she calls superficial reading.
the jump.
Because you only read one phrase and that's it. Your mind doesn't need to understand, your mind doesn't need to get the message, your mind doesn't need to do anything. However, if you read a book with page by page, and then you stop like every 2 pages to say what this guy wants to tell me, what I learned of these two pages, that's when you have a deep reading. And that's where your neurons, that's when your neurons begin to learn, and it's fascinating to read that book. And there is another book of another girl that they talk about what happened when we read it, and that's amazing. Nowadays the problem is that we don't have it. And when you don't have that reading, then you have problems with critical thinking, because then you believe everything that they told you. And one of the biggest problems that we have without critical thinking is that we have minds that they are, well, that's since the political point of view, where you can, seed an ideology in those brains. Because the people, they don't have critical thinking, why he's telling me that?
Or they base it off the headline instead of the article.
Exactly. So
Or the
easy
source.
that you create an
source that they
ideology, and that person, they became what we call in Mexico borregos, I don't know how to say, sheep, that they only follow what they have said. No, the book of 1093 or what's the one? Orson Welles.
1984.
1984. Sorry, 84.
So let's talk about the reading part of it. There's plenty of us that read. It didn't happen like you said.
Yeah.
They read because they had to read. They were told to read in school, and I don't care what I'm reading.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read it. I got to remember stuff because I got to take a test. What you're talking about is important, but I think that's an inherent skill someone has or can learn. Just the act of reading doesn't lead to what we're talking about. There's just, because we've been forced to read all through school, and there's plenty of things I didn't care about. I still had to read. I mean,
And that's the thing like I want to ask, like, is the only way to create critical thinking is by reading? Because I tell you, from my I love reading things that they really capture my attention. But they needs to be like superb. Like when I'm being in these books, I'm like, yes.
they weren't textbooks.
Huh?
They weren't textbooks.
They were textbooks, right? But they fed my imagination on ways that I read the way that I can think. Because I can connect dots across the world. Like, I can do it. It's so easy for me. But it's difficult to find readings that actually can connect a world in that way, right? And for me, that's what I love entrepreneurship, because to me it's that experiential learning. Like, you learning by doing, you discover things, you start asking why, and when you ask why, you get the answer, and you continue, you evolve, and you become that book. That to me, at least for me, work out. Because when it comes to those textbooks, I cannot do it. I try. I have a huge collection of books that I'm like, one day I'm gonna read out books. I halfway through my life, and I don't think I'm gonna go through them, right? But then I have experience, exposures, knowledge, collection of memories, relationships, and all that kind of stuff that book cannot provide you to. So even like in this conversation, when I'm hearing all these things, we can hear all this data, but what my reality is different to the person in the north side, south side, east side, and that's just talking San Antonio. We're not talking between the difference between Texas, California, New York, and then Hong Kong, and then Beijing, and then Colombia, Bogota, like I can see so much different variables that a book, a report, a research.
Yes, because you have the opportunity to travel.
And
Thank you.
the time and life experience. So one of the questions is, if we are looking to give future generations the biggest leg up, because by definition, the youth don't have time to learn to be a book of experience because they're growing, they're learning. How do we do that? And traditionally, reading has been one of the more efficient ways, not the only way. Writing essays, the idea that you can connect thoughts and see how thoughts flow together is being lost. And it's very scary when we give writing assignments to college students, to college freshmen. They can't do it.
Yeah, I can't remember what to say.
We don't know what we do with that. But so you probably have the ability to learn from people who did learn that way.
Yes.
So what happens when
Because they do the summary. They do the summary for me.
So you can learn conversation, but what happens when we reduce the people of conversation in society who can read? 100 years from now, the people who can read, who can write essays, who could have a long conversation with you so you could learn from them. And it seems like we're going, at least right now, in that trajectory, because even at top universities, students can't write essays.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that I was very surprised when I came to United States and Texas is find out a lot of persons, believe me, a lot of persons, that they haven't traveled outside United States.
Oh, it's people that haven't traveled outside San Antonio.
Well, no, that there you are. So that's why I say, wow, when I begin coming from like a foreign country, come to this place, and then I begin to see very, limited, point of view. That's where I begin to have these shocks that I need to learn.
But we also privilege people.
Well, I mean, we also.
Yeah.
Well, again, no, that's my point.
No, privilege. I mean, like he comes from Mexico, I come from Ecuador. Our countries are poor countries. It's people that haven't traveled to other places. It's people that sometimes they can barely eat. But based on we know a little bit. I mean, I know a lot about myself and a little bit about you, right? If we can do certain things, it's because we have that privilege. Because sometimes it's not necessarily to travel to another part of the world.
That would be another point of view, another topic, but.
Hopefully they still do it. They just bulldozed the place where my wife became a citizen at, that cultural arts center downtown, which was a great facility, timeless facility, and they bulldozed it. So I'm going to get started on that. But where I'm going with this was 2012 is when my wife became a citizen. And it was a wake-up call for me. I'm sitting there with my wife. She's right next to me. I got my in-laws that came in from Mexico, my mother and father-in-law. And there's 700 people from all over the planet.
Yeah.
Sitting
Isn't it
there.
beautiful?
And I'm like, what am I doing?
I was there.
I'm taking this for granted. I'm just a guy that grew up in the States, in South Texas, and I'm lucky to be born here. And all these people from all over the planet are coming here just to try to have a shot. And that was a moment. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's had that moment, but that was huge that I got to experience with that. And it scares me because not a lot of people have traveled all around the country. I didn't need to travel around the country. I just need to be in there in a room with 700 people from all over the world off of that as well. And with my insurance walk, I've met all these people from all over the planet, and how lucky we are just to be here. Now, we got these luxuries. That's why I thought, the privilege, and I do feel privileged just because I happen to grow up
Yeah,
here.
I mean that's another whole point, that another whole topic that we
AI
can
can
discuss.
teach you.
Yeah, but
One of the things that, I apologize if I interrupt you, but one of the things that we focus a lot is in the global mindset. We have this whole global mindset structure that we want to make people curious about. What about you? What do you say? Like, I have done programs in Italy. I have done programs in Spain. I have done programs in Colombia. I have done programs across the continent. And the reason what I want you to do, they're not going to find solutions right away. But the gain is they realize that if somebody else is on the other side of the table, that they don't think the same. And that's an opportunity to grow the market. Because I'm a business person. Everything I bring into business, right? I say, the more that you learn about the culture, the more that you learn about what is important to them, not to you.
You're bringing up a point too. All these countries and these places all over the planet. How are they attacking AI? How are we going to commingle this situation with this technology?
and that's why we are finishing now, and I would like to listen your a final statement of what everything that we discussed today. No? So if you can start.
I'll leave it. Okay. I'll. First off, this has been fun. I mean, I got so much that I got to get back to. I probably missed 30 emails just but it's a sobering moment to really just kind of process that. I would talk about disconnecting from the technology, and we're talking about technology, but we're not, we're sitting and discussing it. And so that's been a breath of fresh air. I want to do it again. I want to learn more and sit down with individuals that are a lot smarter than me to be able to process this and become better. So I guess I'm a little bit more optimistic on our future because I'm an optimist like you. But sometimes you and I had this conversation. It might have been yesterday. It's exhausting. Sometimes there's so much noise and baggage going on out there. To try to stay optimist, but that I'm anxious for us to maybe resit again. It could be 6 months. It could be a year, and kind of analyze. Hey, what changed since 12 months ago? Because I think there could be a lot changed.
No, I am planning to do this at least once a month, and to invite people in order that we share this, because I have learning that when I have these discussions, there is more than just my point of view. So I think that's the good.
I agree.
It's very cool.
Wally.
I'm clearly concerned about the trajectory of all of this. At the same time, these type of experiences are both fun and I think really important to model, because this is exactly what I worry is being lost, the ability to sit, to see your facial expressions, to keep track. Okay, are you agreeing with my point? Are you disagreeing? There are all these skills that go into having a conversation, which translate to not just critical thinking, but the social skills you need in business, the social skills you need in relationships, that we need this type of experience.
And pass it down to other people.
And exactly, that has to be passed down to future generations. So I think this experience is more important than perhaps it has been in the past, because this is what is at risk of being lost and not modeled in our busy lives to future generations. Sit around the table, what is your thinking? We've all had this experience of trying to get more than a 30-second comment out of a 13-year-old. And I confess there's some in my life that I've all but given up because I haven't figured out how to do that. But I think modeling this is really important. So I'll leave it at, this is great, do more of this.
You are invited to keep helping.
I think it's a great idea. It's been very eye-opening to other people, for sure. I would like to have seen someone probably in their 70s and even 80s here. It would be interesting.
Well, I am close to the 70s.
And then a few. You still got some time.
They'll tell us how they really feel.
You and I are still in our 60s, so and then a few younger people. It would be interesting to see a diverse group having that conversation. But I'm an optimist on technology because I've been at it so long, and I've seen so many pessimists over the years about technology, and technology's proved some wrong. So it's proved some right, but overall, I think it's been beneficial. My biggest concern right now over the last 10 years of technology is I'm so concerned with the companies that are dictating technology and basically owning it have way too much money. See, historically, most companies, even the old Microsoft's days, they were companies with a lot of money, but not to the extent of what they have now. You've got Google, billions of dollars. These companies could literally give this technology away for the next probably 20 years for free, and then control the technology that we're all using, because people will use it, especially if you give it away free. That's probably my biggest concern in technology right now, is the few companies, there's not enough other companies that are giving them competition. Again, I remember the days people go, what are you talking about? I said, I remember the days when there were 20 different spreadsheets, not just Lotus, Excel. There were tons of competitors. They're all small little strappy companies. You see some
emails.
Yeah.
Because now it's Gmail, but before it was Hotmail, AOL.
But there's just not enough of that competition. And of course, people say, no, there's all these small little AI companies, but they're all, what's the back end of all of these small tech AI companies? It's Claude, it's the same companies that are the backbone of it. So that's kind of
some disruptors need to come in.
Yes, somebody needs to come in.
And the good thing is we've got history to base that off too. I mean, you look at Walmart taking over Kmart, Amazon taking over.
But there's
everybody.
just so much money. I mean,
Oh,
billions.
We never had the barrier of entry.
Yeah, exactly.
So
The barrier
high,
of entry is
both on
so
data
high
and
with the
computers.
data centers and all that stuff. There's just companies just can't come in and I'm going to put up that's the only thing that concerns me.
Washington.
I'm not trying to make a counterpoint in everything you say, in everything that you guys say, but I'm very optimistic about the future generations because I'm fortunate to get to know them. I'm fortunate to work with them. I'm fortunate to listen what is concerning to them. And they have the same concerns I ask. So for me, it's just the same questions put them on 140 characters. But the concerns are the same from one perspective. And I have a big concern about the money, but those big money works creating also opportunities for the small companies. To me, the point is the disconnection. I think that people's getting lazier and lazier. That's it. Lazier and lazier. And more comfortable that we are forgetting to challenge the status quo. That to me is the thing, because I see entrepreneurships doing the same things, from pizza, burgers to big technology, that they can create and innovate and create change on society. That to me is more about my concern. People, our generation thought the next generation that you should get a job and retire. And some of them, they're expecting that to happen to them. That doesn't exist anymore. You should be managed your career as your retirement, but people don't have that mindset because we screwed that up. Or grandparents want us to be doctor, engineers, or something like that. So that way you get a position in one company, you retire in that company. Congratulations, now you can die, right? That was the structure that they have. And the newer generations, they grow up as saying those things on it, and now they're like, wait, this is not working out, right? And they're not realizing that the whole ecosystem has changed. That's my concern. What are we doing to create that connectivity for the newer generations and the opportunities, and actually invite them to the table, and instead of us saying and repeating what we want to hear,
Talking behind their backs.
exactly, listen to what they have to say. That to me is the concern, because I'm getting into the older generation and I see a lot of those things that we love to talk, right? So it takes me time to shut up and listen. That's the concern that I have.
Okay, thank you. For me, what I learned today is from everybody. I think that the point that we agree is that we have a society as a humans, because what's in it for us, since the point of view of AI and the behavior and how it's going to affect us. We discussed several topics that concern each of us, but at the end, we understand, and I think that that's something that we agree, is that the problem is that we as a society, as a human is part of a community is part of a society, as a country, and it creates a culture. That's the part where AI is affected. And at the same time, what I can report is that because that is affected by the AI, we have the power to control the AI at the same time. So that's the part that I learned today, and obviously I just want to say thank you, and I hope that we can do it again, because I learned a lot, and I believe me, it was very inspiring for me, and I hope that it happened for you as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to meet you guys.
Thank you.
You too.
That's interesting, no?